Good evening, everyone. I'm Kyle Johnson for MustangsTV.com. Here today, got the special privilege of having Mark Lamm join us. Mark, a 2006 graduate of Loretto High School, now with the Mississippi Braves down in Mississippi. And we're going to be talking with Mark today about playing down in Mississippi and the minor league life and to see how everything's going with it. Mark, I'm glad you can join us today here on MustangsTV.com. Mark, I want to start off the interview. Just want to ask you, how's things been going? What have you been into lately?
Not a lot. I mean, mostly it's been minor league baseball, like we talked about. I mean, it's 140 baseball games in a season within about 6 months. So from spring training in March all the way to this past couple of days when I got home, it's been baseball. But it's a good life for sure. It's sometimes a grind, but other than that, you always have fun with it.
Now, Mark, I know that you got your undergraduate degree from Vanderbilt recently, and I know that just from talking to you, you're going back to school now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I did. I was a fifth-year senior there at Vanderbilt. I had Tommy John surgery, so I wasn't able to pitch my senior year. But it was actually a little blessing in disguise. I didn't really realize it at the time. I was able to go back and start a master's degree, which I'm continuing to work on now. I've got 3 classes this fall, and I'll be taking a class in the spring, and I'll be done with that. So it's in organizational leadership. Has a lot to do with human resource, kind of a business background, and ultimately I can see myself potentially pursuing a front office job in some sports organization, or if not, I mean, master's degree is what you need to do some coaching in college. If I do decide to go that route, I can see that going as well.
Hey, absolutely. Mark, with you playing with the Mississippi Braves, can you just talk a little bit about, life in the minors and just what it's like to play so many games in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's like I said earlier, it's a little bit of a grind, but I mean, as most people do their work at their normal jobs in the front of the day, we usually do it at the back end. So daily routine of mine was just I get up around 9:30, which is actually a little earlier than most people. I actually like to get breakfast for my body and everything, but I get up, make me some eggs or anything like that just to get something in my system, and then you kind of lounge around till about 12:30 until you go get some lunch, and you usually take your lunch down to the field. You get there at about 1 o'clock, and it's when you start really kind of preparing your mind for the game or kind of spacing out and just enjoying time with the team. And then by that time, you're taking BP at around 3 or 4 o'clock, and you're doing your throwing, your drills, your bullpens. And at about 6 or 7 o'clock, game time rolls around, and you're watching baseball for 3 hours and waiting until your name gets called down on the bullpen phone, and it's ready to go out there. So that's a daily routine for a baseball player, and like you said earlier, it's a everyday occurrence. And when those off days do come around, you like to spend time just doing nothing, because most of the time we have set times where we have to do this or we have to be down at the field at certain times. So you kind of space out a little bit, enjoy some time by the pool or play video games all day, something like that.
So in a lot of ways, it's just like a normal job, except that I'm sure that there's days you work some overtime in there as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes extra inning games are fine, but then again, you're just like, all right, well, we got another one tomorrow, so let's hurry up and win this one.
Let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah.
Mark, can you describe your day-to-day schedule while you were at Vanderbilt and playing on the Vanderbilt Commodores baseball team?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things where you have to kind of separate baseball from your academics, which some kids find easier than most, some find it a little harder than most. I was able to do a little bit of both. I was able to make sure when I went down the baseball field, it was all baseball. Our coach really harped upon the fact that when you got inside those white lines, you didn't have a care in the world but baseball, baseball, baseball. And that's something I've tried to take to my minor league life, because there can be other distractions there. But then when you go off of the baseball field, you always have to have that academic mindset. And so you always have something to do. People that were very detail-oriented, people that were able to keep up with a schedule, those were the ones that always did fine in school. It wasn't about how smart you were. I mean, it does have a little bit about it, but it was people who actually did the work, put in the studying, and from that deal, you were able to succeed in the classroom, and it was very easy.
Because I can imagine you were probably sitting right there in front of the TV waiting on your name to be called. What was that like?
Yeah, it's actually it's a year-long process almost. Scouts and other teams are always watching you from your first pitch in fall ball almost. They're always at practice checking you out. seeing what you have to store for that team. And as the season moves on and you see how you've developed, the teams kind of give you a call and say, hey, we have some interest in you, and you give them some information, whether it be just they really want to talk to you, get to know you, kind of get some medical records on you, just get to know Mark Lamm.
Right.
And once it come around, about a couple weeks before the draft, usually you have the teams that really have interest in you calling you, and I had about, I don't know, I'd say 20 to 25 of the teams that were calling me and saying, hey, when do you expect to go? Would you sign? Because I was a senior sign. They want to make sure I was committed to baseball, not going somewhere else.
Right.
So, I mean, that was a couple weeks before, and then the day of, we actually had practice because we were preparing for a super regional there at Vanderbilt University, and I guess the first 3 or 4 rounds happened when we were at the baseball field. It was kind of neat. So a lot of kids were getting drafted while they're on the baseball field, and someone get a text message, hey, Jack Armstrong got taken by the Astros in the 3rd round, and we all cheer while people were hitting batting practice. So that was neat. But I didn't get drafted until the 6th round by the Atlanta Braves, and I actually was home, got a bite to eat. I was watching a little bit in the 5th round, and I was like, you know what, this is not going to be fun. I don't really care where I get drafted. I just want to get drafted, and hopefully it'll be in the top 10 rounds, which I was hoping for. So I went and laid by the pool there at my apartment. I was just hanging out. I went for a swim because it was getting hot, and a bunch of the other guys were coming over because we were just going to spend the day together. Get out of the pool, and all of a sudden my phone won't quit vibrating. I'm just like, all right, well, something's happened. Let's see what it is. And then I think the first text message says I got taken by the Atlanta Braves in the 6th round, which is, I was pretty ecstatic about, because being here in Middle Tennessee, that's what it is. You grew up watching Braves baseball on Turner Television every time,
Exactly.
every day. And I can remember my dad jumping up and down when Otis Nixon robbed a home run. And that's really when I first became a Braves fan, was when that happened. I was like, all right, this is Braves baseball. And from that day forward, it's been everything I thought it would be, being in the Braves organization, and I'm really glad they took me.
Mark, how was the transition from college to pro life? Obviously, you go from going to class and everything, and then you go to the pros, and it's just completely different. Completely different routine. How did you make that transition right there?
Yeah, it was a little difficult for me at first, because you go from a time where you've got class throughout the whole day, and then you go straight down to the baseball field, and then all of a sudden I found myself with all this time on my hands, which I hadn't had for 5 years. I was just like, what I do with myself? So I really, was able to wind down a little bit, but not too much, because you still have to prepare for baseball in the afternoons. But you find ways to pass your time just by reading books or playing video games, like I said, or just being able to relax a little bit. But other than that, just on-field play, a lot of minor league baseball, or a lot of baseball before you get to the major leagues, is about, it's kind of individualistic in a way, because people are trying to get to one place, other than college where it's very team-oriented. You do get a team aspect in the minor league baseball, but then again, it's what you can do for the big club, what you can do for the Atlanta Braves, not what you can do for the Mississippi Braves. So,
Right.
You take care of what you have to do in the minor leagues, then you ultimately want to go and make a commitment and do some big things for the Atlanta Braves.
Right. Describe the teams that you played for up to the Mississippi Braves.
Yeah, so after I got drafted, I went straight to Danville Braves, which is a short season team for the Atlanta Braves, and Clint Wright just got done playing there, did very well. He was there the whole season this year, and but I was there for 5 days. I'm a little older, so that's where a lot of younger guys are kept, a lot of guys with some raw talent that do have the potential to get up to where AA, AAA is, but they haven't got to put it together yet because they are so young. So
Right.
After that, they sent me right up to High A in Lynchburg, Virginia, played for the Lynchburg Hillcats, which are the High A team for the Atlanta Braves, and got to pitch there the last couple months of the summer. Did very well there, and I put myself in a position where I could go play for the Mississippi Braves in the AA, and I was able to do that this season.
Now, since you did have the Tommy John surgery, how was your arm before then, and then how did the surgery affect your arm after you had the surgery?
Yeah, so I had surgery in August of '09, and for people that don't know, it's where you tear a ligament in your elbow. I've got this cute little scar here now from where I had surgery, but you hear names like Steven Strasburg had it, John Smoltz had it. It's very common now in the baseball world. I think 1 out of every 6 Major League Baseball players have it, so it's not something that's profound in any way. It's just how much stress your elbow gets when you're throwing a baseball. But before the fact, always had a good strong arm, always live. Didn't really put it all together before surgery. But the good thing about surgery was I had it. You take about 10 to 12 months off, and you really don't start throwing until about 6 months out. But the best thing for me was being able to take a look back at baseball and say, all right, what am I going to do to get myself where I can, perform at the highest quality, highest performance. And the biggest thing was you learn how to pitch again. You learn how to throw a baseball. I mean, you take a year off from doing something, you've got to it's like getting back on the bike and learning how to pedal again. So
Right.
I was able to, know my arm a little bit better. My arm was stronger because of the things you do during rehab after surgery. You're doing a lot of shoulder stuff, and you're really strengthening that area where it doesn't happen again. So I was able to, one thing, just know my arm better, realize what I'm having to do to get better at my throwing a baseball, and also was strengthen a little bit. So, those are the two biggest things that happened during surgery.
Looking forward to the future, what are some goals for Mark Lamm, and what do you see yourself doing in a few years?
Well, hopefully in a couple of years I'll be up playing for Atlanta Braves, but all minor league baseball players have those aspirations, and hopefully that's what I can do in the next couple of years. I'll probably compete for a spot in AAA next year, and depending on how it goes in spring training, I could end up back in AA, but it wouldn't be such a bad thing because I had two teammates get called up right from AA Mississippi, and that's the thing. They always say if you're in AA, you're a phone call away, and it's so true. If you perform well there, you can perform well in the major leagues, and there's not too much of a difference except they're experienced in the major leagues while these guys still have the tools, but they're a little bit younger. So that's the plans for me. I'll pursue that as long as I can and playing baseball. It's something I've been doing since age of 3, 4, or 5. Out in my front yard playing with my two older brothers, and my dad being the baseball coach, I was always around it. So that's my plan. If not, I've got that master's degree I can fall back on, which is always a good thing, and I'll go from there and decide after that.
Now, growing up, I understand you had two brothers, and obviously your dad, coaches baseball. What was that like, growing up with two brothers? You could play, baseball in the front yard, and having, a dad as a head coach.
Yeah, it was. It's a baseball family for sure. We always been around it, and probably always will, since both my older brothers are now coaching, and my dad's still coaching at Loretto High School. But it was always a good time because I was able to go outside. I always had someone to play catch with. From my dad to my older brother Paul or my older brother Luke, it was always something we were doing outside, whether it was playing wiffle ball in the front yard with all of our friends or just playing catch and see who could hit each other in the chest so many times. But it was something I was able to always look up to them for because they were pretty good athletes as well, given that Paul went to Austin P as a catcher and Luke went to Martin Methodist as a pitcher. They were always pretty good at baseball too, so I was constantly trying to be a little bit better than them, hit the ball a little bit farther than Paul did, or throw the ball a little bit harder than Luke did, because that's the great thing about baseball. It's very competitive, and especially when you get in with siblings, you're always competing against each other, and we were able to do that on a day-to-day basis growing up. And I can't tell you how many times, from lawn tossing with my brother Luke at games we would go to and watch Paul in college, we would go and take our gloves and we'd sit there and lawn toss. And I guarantee a lot of it with my arm strength now is what I did before with them. It's just constantly putting in the hours. That's the thing about baseball. It's one of the tough games to play because whenever you go up to bat and you fail 7 out of 10 times, it's still a good job. You're doing a good job. It's a tough game, and being a pitcher as well, you have to throw to a small target, and all those things I did as a kid helped me out to where I am now. And I'm so glad to be a part of a baseball family that's still going to be a baseball family whenever I get out of it, because it's helped me out tremendously.
What's your advice to younger kids, to get better and to reach the ultimate goal of playing in the major leagues?
Yeah, there's a lot of it, but I think the biggest thing for me, as I was growing up, I was constantly just doing things outside. I tried to mix myself into all kinds of sports. It just so happened I ended up being a baseball player. It was the best thing I was at. But I think from an early age, you need to start playing a lot of sports. It helps you be more athletic. Playing football, playing soccer, playing basketball, all those things are going to make you a better athlete. And in terms of playing in sports, especially playing in baseball, you've got to be a good athlete first. First things first, and then from there you can kind of go on to what you need to do. But I think in terms of a baseball skill set, I mean, as I was talked about earlier, baseball is a very unique sport where you've got to be very good at hitting a target or hitting a ball solid every time. And I mean, for me growing up, I was constantly playing long toss, just throwing the ball as far as I could for as long as I could. Now, granted that you have to take some steps to back from it and say, all right, is this hurting my arm? But I mean, a lot of the things are you just got to strengthen it. And anytime you can get a ball in your hands and just go play catch, it's better than nothing. That's for sure. It's not just sitting there and just throwing a baseball. Me and my brother used to play a game where we see who could hit each other in the chest 15 times, first to 15, and that's kind of where I got my little pinpoint accuracy from, I guess, is throwing to a certain spot, not throwing to a large location. But those things, baseball-wise, is really what you need. But ultimately, you just have to put the work in. As I said earlier, you play in any kind of sport, as long as you're getting athletic and putting in the time from a baseball standpoint is ultimately what you need to do, because you're not going to become a very good pitcher if you just get on the mound every so often and hope for good results. You have to go on and get on a mound as many times as you can, because ultimately that's what it's all about, getting on a mound, feeling how it is to throw off a mound to hitters. And I mean, that's how I became a good pitcher. And I always had a good arm, but it was getting on the mound and getting that repetition that really made me into a good pitcher. So I mean, that's the best advice I can give you, is just being able to do that and ultimately have fun with it, because when sports don't become fun, then they're not worthwhile. And I've been able to have fun with baseball and any kind of sport I've played, just from a competition standpoint for my whole life, and that's the best I can tell you.
Mark, we appreciate you joining us today
absolutely.
on Mustangs TV, and want to thank you for your time. And we want to thank you, the fans, for watching, and want to encourage you to keep checking the site for more interviews and game-by-game broadcast. And for Kyle Johnson, it's Mark Lamm. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.